Hi, today I'll be talking about a quick tutorial on how to implement the new Twitter pixel using Google Tag Manager. Firstly, go to the Twitter Ads Manager and access the Twitter Events Manager page. Once done, the first thing you should see is the Twitter pixel and the ID. If you don't see it, you should be prompted to add it in using the Add Event Source button straight away. Doing this would eventually lead to the Twitter pixel ID that you can see right away. So starting off, what we have to do now is to create the relevant events on Twitter Ads Manager before going over to Google Tag Manager to implement those tags. Firstly, for the Twitter base pixel, we don't need to do much because it's automatically created over here, as you can see. However, for the Twitter event pixels that are required to be used for tracking of conversion events like add to cart, signups, or purchases, we need to add an event first. So for this example, let's try to add an add to cart event. And you can start by clicking on this button. Let's give this a name. Choose the relevant event type as well as the attribution window. And I'm going to click on the website activity audience if you're interested in retargeting these audiences in the future as well. Click on next. When you're done, click on define event with code. This is the preferable option as it allows us to pass back various parameters such as the value of the product, currency, and even product ID. This option would also be compatible with Twitter's conversion optimization model, which is useful for performance campaigns. Click on next. Once over here, you would realize that you've got different options. And of course, because we are actually kind of implementing it using Google Tag Manager, we're just going to click on this option. And we're going to take note of this event ID over here, which we will be using later. And click on Save. So now what we want to do is to add in the various pixels in Google Tag Manager, starting with the Twitter base pixel that should be implemented across all pages in your website domain. So for this, what you would want to do is to add a new tag. Click on Tag Configuration and type in Twitter. So over here, you should actually see both the Twitter base pixel and the event pixel templates available. If you don't see it, please click on the Discover More Tag Types button over here. And of course, add them into your relevant workspaces. So also a reminder to not use the Twitter Universal Website Tag template, as that will be deprecated by Google Tag Manager soon. So I've just gone ahead to click the Twitter base pixel, and over here we have the pixel ID, where what you want to do is to actually go back to the Events Manager, click on the copy button of the Twitter pixel, go back to your Google Tag Manager and just paste it over here. So it's pretty simple. And now the last thing that you would have to do is to associate a trigger event that decides when the Twitter base pixel should fire. As I mentioned previously, it should be implemented across all pages in your website domain. So for this, you can actually click on the default all pages page view trigger. Save, let's add in this specific name, and that is done. After this, what we want to do now is to implement the Twitter event pixel across specific events or actions that we would like to track. For this example, I will be using the add to cart event. Before we go ahead to add a new tag, we definitely need to make sure that you have an existing trigger already built in on Google Tag Manager that signifies an add to cart event is essentially happening. For this, I've gone ahead to create an existing add to cart custom event as a trigger. Of course, there are multiple ways to do this, but I've gone ahead to use the easiest method. Once you've done this, you can start to then create a new tag. Of course, you would want to select the Twitter event pixel. And now you would then paste the full event ID of the add to cart event that you have actually just created in the Twitter Events Manager previously. So once done, you would now want to associate the add to cart trigger event that we've created to make sure that the event pixel only fires when the appropriate event actually happens. I mean, I'm sure we don't want the Twitter event pixel or the add to cart event pixel to be firing whenever a page loads, so make sure you've selected the correct trigger. Click on Save once you are done. Once we're done with the tags, we can now start to do some QA checks on whether they're firing properly. For this, we can of course go to the preview mode and enter in our site and debug. But before we go in, please a reminder to install the Twitter Pixel Helper Chrome extension, as that would be a key tool for us to see if the pixels have been implemented and are firing correctly. So once I'm in, you can actually see straight away that the pixel helper immediately shows that the Twitter base pixel is firing upon a page view, which is correct. You would also realize that the pixel ID shown here actually matches the base pixel ID that is on the Twitter Events Manager. So now let us proceed to mimic an add to cart event, and once clicking upon the button, we can then also see the pixel helper showing that the Twitter event pixel has fired when the button is clicked, which is correct. The ID of this pixel will also match what's shown on the Events Manager page. Of course, what you can also do is to click on the Summary tab of the preview just to see which specific pixels are firing as supposed. Last but not least, we should also see the active status of the tags on Events Manager, which would tell us when the last ping of that specific pixel has been recorded. If it's not active, then it's most likely an issue that the pixel is not firing as supposed. So once you're done, exit the preview mode and submit those changes. Also, another reminder to run another round of QA on the actual live version of the website. Sometimes the pixels might fire on preview mode but don't actually fire on the live version. If the Twitter pixel in this case isn't showing any fires on the live version, what you can do is to inspect the page, click on network, type in of course Twitter, refresh the page, make sure that your ad blocker is turned off, and in this case itself, you should then be able to see the Twitter pixel rows highlighted in red, along with the reasons as to why they're not firing correctly. On the last portion, I would now like to talk about adding in dynamic variables into our Twitter pixels. This is specifically helpful for the Twitter event pixels, where sometimes we would want to add in variables that sends back helpful information, like the price of the product, the ID of the product, or even an email address of the user who has just signed up for a service. Before we talk about how to associate it within the tags, we need to make sure that we've created a variable on Google Tag Manager. In this case itself, you can actually see that I've created a variable that essentially tells Google Tag Manager to pass back the product ID information to the Twitter pixel whenever someone adds a product to the cart. Of course, I've used the data layer variable, but you can use others like CSS selectors, or either work with your dev team to create something custom. You can also see that I've created other variables that I'll be using later, like the price of the product and the currency. So once done, you can go back to the tags, click on the specific event pixel that you'd like to add in the variables. So for this case itself, you can see for the add to cart pixel, I would like to add in the value, the currency, and the product ID. So you can go ahead and click and select on these specific variables that you have just created. Once done, click on Save and that's it. If you're using a event pixel for a purchase event, which is different from what I've just done, it is also encouraged to add in the email parameter passback. The Twitter pixel actually allows advertisers to send back hashed emails in a privacy compliant manner to basically match back to any users who might have seen or clicked on the ad previously. This is of course particularly useful for post-view conversion metrics, conversion tracking. How you can actually do that is to go on the Twitter event pixel and under the user parameters. This is essentially where you can go ahead and add in the email data layer passback for your purchase event, for example. Cool. So once you've done, once you've clicked on submit, what you can actually do is to go back to the live email live version of the website. For example, let's try to do a add to cart event. So the pixel fires. This time, when you click on the event pixel ID, you can actually see those variables that you have actually created being passed back. So this would be a confirmation that that the dynamic variables are firing as supposed. So that's it in our quick tutorial. I hope you found this useful, and I wish you good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you, and God bless.